Halo 1 was a pretty good game. Not just gameplay-wise, I mean, it was fun. Halo 1 was fun. I think we spent years, frankly, at this point, saying, how do we ratchet the bar across the board up for Halo 2?
We thought they'd never find us. We were wrong.
I will continue my campaign against the humans.
No enemy has ever withstood our might.
Chief, we're running out of time.
I need a weapon.
But judging by the scene here at Times Square, New York City, apparently the promise was very real. We're just moments away from midnight, November 9th, and the launch of what is perhaps one of the most anticipated console video games of all time. I'm going to step aside and let these guys tell you what it is.
This moment has been eagerly awaited by millions of gamers around the world. We're about an hour away here in Times Square at the Toys R Us. It is mayhem.
I thought about nothing but this thing for last 4 months. It's like episode 1 type anticipation for me. I'm so pumped.
Dual wielding 2 weapons at the same time, baby. Yeah, we got many different combinations with the weapons. Let's go, Halo 2!
The game's awesome, dude.
Hurry it up, let's get it out of here. I think that this will be one of those things when we look back 10 years from now, they'll look back and say Halo 2 was one of those seminal moments when it shipped. Millions of people then said, I can now play a movie rather than watch a movie. And that's what it really feels like.
Bet you can't stick it.
You're on.
Halo 2. It's the sequel to one of the greatest games ever made and the most anticipated game on any platform.
Delivering on the anticipation of a better, bigger and more badass sequel, gamers were also greeted by the introduction of Xbox Live and the ability to take Halo online for the first time in the franchise's history.
There are those who said this day would never come. What are they to say now?
Rated M for mature.
So after Halo 1, I mean, yeah, everyone was looking forward to Halo 2. I mean, Halo 1 was such a groundbreaking game that the anticipation for Halo 2 was probably like nothing else.
I would have got home about 12:30 that night and just played solid for 24 hours. Fell asleep literally playing Halo, and woke up a few hours later with pizza box next to me and a beer next to me and the controller still in my hand and the timeout screen or that blue screen saying you've been booted from the game or whatever up on the screen.
When it first came out, me and Andre actually were one of the first people to go through the doors of Dick Smith, I think, to grab it, and then we played it until we had clocked it on Heroic, and then we slept for a while and then hit it again on Legendary.
They're tough, but they ain't invincible. Stay with the Master Chief. He'll know what to do.
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
Energy Sword.
Special Golden Elites in the Halo CE campaign wielded energy swords that would kill in one hit, but the weapon was missing from multiplayer. Halo 2 rectified this by adding the energy sword to multiplayer. When in range, players could perform a lunging sword attack with the weapon, killing their opponent instantly. The true power of this weapon came in its stealth. Competitive players would keep it in the secondary weapon slot, making it invisible to other players. Then would pull it out when an unsuspecting opponent was in range, killing them instantly. The sword had unlimited uses, unlike other weapons that relied on ammo. This meant a careful user could go on extremely large killing sprees with it.
Dual wielding.
Halo 2 needed to improve the gameplay that Combat Evolved provided. One big change was the addition of dual wielding, allowing Spartans to hold one small weapon in each hand. The pistol, PP, plasma rifle, and needler could all now be dual wielded, as well as some other new weapons.
Pistol nerf.
With the addition of dual wielding, the pistol was redesigned, weakened considerably, and had its scope removed to preserve balancing while dueling. Using the pistol on its own as a starting weapon was no longer viable.
Battle rifle.
Because the pistol was now extremely weak and lost its ability to zoom, a new weapon was added to function as a utility weapon. The battle rifle fired in bursts of 3 bullets and required 4 bursts to kill. This was referred to as a 4-shot kill. Although the battle rifle had a slower kill time to the CE pistol, it was still used as the starting weapon in competitive game types.
I remember, again, went down to EB Games for the midnight release with a couple of mates. We picked up our copies of the game at midnight, the limited edition with the steel case, and I still think it was one of the first limited editions that I ever bought, and I still have it. I still have the steel case for Halo 2. And we took it back, we jumped on, and it was crazy because it was the first time that you could play Halo online.
It was the first title that I had ever seen that had an in-depth matchmaking system. It was Xbox Live, obviously, compatible.
Xbox Live is Xbox's online service for multiplayer gaming. It's the place where you go to play your games, download your apps, talk to people, meet other gamers.
It was almost like having a LAN setting in your room, because you could sit down and play against so many people from different corners of the world. That helped with the appeal of Halo 2, and probably was the reason why it took off from the start.
So at home, my house goes down a bit of a valley. You have to come down 3 flights of stairs to get to the front door. So the only way we could get broadband is if we brought it through the ground. I think it took me 3 weeks or so to dig a trench about 40 meters long to basically lay this pipe, or the conduit at least, so they could basically just fish the cable down straight to the house.
Touch of a few buttons, just go into matchmaking and start searching, and then boom, you were matched with people from United States, people from Europe, wherever, Australia, and you're making friends with these people you had never ever thought were possible. And voice chat as well, which was a huge thing. But before that, I hadn't seen that.
Proximity voice. You can get close to somebody in a game and talk to them, and only that person can hear you.
Nice grenade toss. Proximity voice is going to make us gods. There's nothing like running up to somebody and killing them with the energy sword, and then 2 minutes later they kill you, and then they're standing over your body saying, "Eat it! How did you like that? See, this is my sword."
I, the leader.
Oh, poor guy, get right! Kyle, get right! I want everything! Bacon, sausages, fish!
I mean, you're not just talking about the game, right? When you're playing the game, how's your week been? What have you been up to? What's been happening? You're talking about something else.
I was playing Pokemon today at school, and I plugged in the stereo into the bottom of the Game Boy. Everyone was just listening to me like...
It was the start of a new era. I'm not sure we all realised it at that point, but it really was the start of a new era for Halo.
The addition of Xbox Live to Halo 2 helped boost the player base and interest in the franchise. The idea of being able to play anyone around the world and see how your skill measured up on a wider scale was exciting. Halo 2 was the first to introduce a matchmaking system that would allow players to search for games and be matched with players of equal skill. The first players to truly take the game seriously enough to develop high-level slaying skills were Bob69er and Lungbutter. Players feared being matched against them in matchmaking, as seeing those names meant sure defeat. They were so good that they ended up on the front page of the global 2vs2 leaderboards, making them world-class players and to other New Zealand players two very big fish in a small pond.
Bob69er. I remember when Bob came onto the scene. Now, there were, by this point in time, an established group, a clan, a cadre of Halo players. We all thought we were pretty awesome. And this hotshot kid comes onto the scene, which was Bob. And Bob came out of nowhere and started smashing and grabbing left, right, and centre. He would just pile up wins. It would just be a race to see who could get second place, basically, because Bob had already taken it out.
Playing against him was a son of a bitch.
They were just rocking the socks off most other people. I mean, I was struggling to keep up.
If you got into a game with them, it was like, holy shit. And then if you got a kill on them, that just made your night kind of thing. Like, holy fuck, I killed Bob69er, bro. Like, that was what it was like. It was insane.
Everyone in New Zealand knew who they were. And at the time, they were, the best players in the country. And they went and then they started playing in the Halo 2v2 matchmaking system and got to the top of the 2v2 matchmaking leaderboards. And that was something to when that happened, that was awesome to see.
Bob just sort of sat there and he sort of took you in a measured stare. It was sort of just smirk if he killed you. There was sort of very, very little emotion, very little tell. I always thought he'd make a great poker player.
In regards to my gamer tag, Bob69er, that all sprung when I was about either 8 or 9 when I was in school. There were 3 Davids in my class, and I got the nickname Bob out of that somehow. So when I was coming to pick a gamer tag, I was like, oh, I can't really get David online, I'll be Bob. And then of course Bob's taken on everything, so they say add a number on the end, and 69 is what you pick when you're a little horny kid.
My first gamer tag was Drenel for some reason. He started off with just a random gamer tag. And I was in McDonald's at my first event, and a guy comes up beside me, like one of the gamers, and he's like, yo Drenel, what are you ordering? And I just froze. I felt disgusting, and as soon as I got home I was like, I gotta change my gamer tag to my name, because that was the fucking most nerdy moment of my life.
I got my gamer tag from the Halo 2 Special Edition disc, or the Extras disc. It had a whole lot of cutout characters, and there was this character called Doberman Gator, which is just like a Doberman dog mixed with an alligator, and I thought it was quite funny, so I went with that. And then over time people just started shortening the name, started calling me Doberman, and then it just got shortened to Dober.
I stole my gamer tag from my brother. He used to go onto chat rooms when it was IRC. He'd go on there and just randomly start counting down 10 to 1, and at the end of it he would go Apocalypse Fire, boom, at the end, and then sign out. And that was his name. It was completely stupid and idiotic, and he sort of abandoned it, and then I just stole it because I needed a name.
The pyro part comes from me loving to blow stuff up. So yeah, I'm Pyroteq, I'm Satiex.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
With Lungbutter, he was a very noisy younger guy. He was really good at the game, and we got along together quite well. We started playing double team, and we sort of didn't get beaten for a long time. Then it came to the point where there was like no competition between us against the Kiwi players, so we just started to play the matchmaking. We got to the point where we'd actually be sitting down just searching for a game, and it takes 10 minutes just to find people, and we would actually be versing the top American players. There's 2 that stand out called the Ogre Twins. There's Ogre 1 and Ogre 2. They're twins. They're pretty much like the best 2v2 players in all of America. It's sort of hard to judge still though, just because of the connection between us. So when we had host, they had to connect to us, so there was a bit of delay in whatever they did. We would beat them, and then whenever they had host, they'd beat us. Even though we beat them, it's still feels like it's not really the same footing, but that was definitely the highlight and sort of showed that I could compete against some of the best, which was a lot of fun back in those days.
The first event that gained attention was the Microsoft Halo 2 battle, with qualifiers held nationwide in Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch. The winners of each stop would progress to a finals to be played out at the Wellington event on Saturday the 9th of April 2005.
They hired out a conference room in the Hotel Continental, and they had, I think it was 8 LCDs sitting around a table.
That was when I first got introduced to so many people, and that was my very first LAN, and I went there going, sweet, yeah, I'm the man, I'm good as at Halo, I've been playing this online. Yeah, I didn't know anything about the game. I got destroyed completely, but let it be known that this event, you know, the game type and settings were sort of, you know, like rockets and dual weapons and stuff like that.
The settings were pretty crazy. I mean, free-for-all is fine for a tournament, but with rocket sniper starts or sword starts or all that kind of stuff, it just makes it really random.
The people I was actually playing with the most at that time might have been around 15, so quite a few of the other good players couldn't compete, which I thought was quite a bummer, but actually good because I didn't actually have any competition. So when I was actually competing in Auckland, I sort of won that one quite easily. I just remember at the end calling my parents, being like, oh hey, I won this, I have to go to Wellington next weekend.
The finals consisted of Auckland representative Bob, Wellington representative Mudcrab and Christchurch representative Gecko.
It was a bit of a breeze really. None of the competition there was close to my skill at the time, I think, because it was still quite new when Halo 2 just came out. So people were still trying to pick up the game, sort of learn it a bit, and I'd already mastered it.
With Bob winning the Halo 2 Battle Finals, he was now set to represent New Zealand against the world in a free-for-all competition hosted by Microsoft and played over Xbox Live.
So the Halo 2 battle that they had running through New Zealand, the main goal for that was to get the top 24 countries' best player to play against each other in online free-for-alls. While I was playing, I kept talking to the Australian guy. His name was Cable, who won the Australian tournament, so I knew him quite well. So we kept talking to each other, like, how'd your game go? How'd my game go? I was like, oh, this Mexican was really good. This, like, Argentinian guy was shit. So, like, it was pretty good talking to someone else who was actually doing it. So we both actually ended up in the final 8, which was another big free-for-all. And in that one there, I didn't do as well in that one. I remember Cable came 6th and I came 7th.
And 17-year-old David Beaton. He's beaten a whole lot of other people to become 7th in the world at Halo.
It's fun.
How many hours would you have to put in at home to really get to that level?
4 or 5 hours a day.
What would you say is the typical gamer? Is there such a thing?
Nah, not at all.
Placing 7th, Bob added boost to his reputation amongst the community, so much so Microsoft had his name placed on the Xbox Live dashboard with a message commemorating his efforts for all of New Zealand to see. Meanwhile, in a number of cities around New Zealand, the LAN scene was booming. Each city had a group of players that would get together and spend hours refining their skills on LAN. It wasn't long before players from each LAN group began to break out from their city and become known nationally. The most standout group amongst them all was from Whanganui. With the increased growth due to Halo 2's release and the word of WCG spreading, the competition for New Zealand's qualifying spot next year was intensifying. The New Zealand WCG 2005 qualifier was held from the 8th to the 10th of July in Auckland. Favoured to win but unable to attend due to the R16 age restriction, Langbutter was absent, leaving his teammate Bob to team with Pablo D instead.
When I first started playing, someone told me, he was like, oh, the best player in Auckland is Bob69, the best player in Wellington is Pablo D, and I was like, oh, okay, Pablo D, so he must be pretty good. Played a free-for-all against him, and yeah, he smashed me.
After getting a taste for competition in previous events, Pablo D was investing as much time as he could to improve, and quickly became one of the best in the country, even surpassing the previous champion, Traction. But comparing skill online didn't mean much. Pablo D would have to prove himself at the next World Cyber Games qualifier against other well-known players such as Woodpal, SaiCheeze, Traction and T-Touch, who all attended with hopes of doing well, but fell short with none of them making it to the finals. Surprisingly, a new pair from small town Wanganui named Kambo and Kurtis surprised everyone with a second place finish.
So WCG came up and Kurtis and Kambo both had Xbox Live and I guess TVs at that time to practice on. They teamed together and went to that. At that particular stage I don't think I had an Xbox or TV.
So the first LAN tournament that I went to with Kambo, that was a crazy experience. I'd never been to anything like that. There was all these people that I hadn't met before, and I felt not like unwelcome, but there was definitely a community there, and I wasn't really a part of it, and we weren't really a part of it yet because we were kind of the new guys.
I've grown up with Paradise. I kind of wanted to team up with him in Halo 2. For some reason, he didn't want to. I don't know why, but I suspect it's because he was a little bit bitter about losing in Halo 1. I mean, that was a big deal for him. We would have made a pretty good team. I mean, but however, I was a bit of a lone wolf. Sometimes I'd run off by myself and do stuff, so maybe I wasn't the best teammate. I mean, Halo 2 was all about, you know, it was doubles.
All the tournaments that I played in prior to WCG 05 were all free-for-all. So the biggest difference would be, obviously, that event was a 2v2. And I guess I was just lucky enough to team up with one of the best players in New Zealand.
The thing about Bob is he's so calm and kind of has such a good time where everyone else is really serious and they get kind of anxious and wound up, and Bob's just kind of chilling out, just destroying everyone and having a good time. And so that was pretty scary. It's always cool to watch Bob69er play.
I don't know how Pablo got to team up with Bob, but because Pablo wasn't as good as some other players.
We definitely practiced way more than any other New Zealand-based team did. I think we were using a lot more call-outs and a lot more strategy.
So I remembered the games were quite easy again, just because there weren't too many people around, but then there were two people I didn't know of online that much, which was Kurtis and Kambo. They were quite close friends in real life, I think, from memory, and so they actually came second at the tournament and we beat them, and I think it was a lot closer than I thought it would be at the time.
Placing second at that LAN was pretty damn exciting. We really did not expect to place that high. We thought we were going to come 6th or 5th possibly.
At the time it was kind of one of those humbling experiences where you're like, holy shit. I didn't realise that our longest LANs were that impressive, and it was more the point that it was like, okay, now we should probably start looking further. You don't normally expect people to go to their first comp and place second, first, third, but more along the lines of like 7th, 8th, if not lower. So coming up that fucking early that fast meant that we were doing something that other people weren't.
After winning the event, Bob and Pablo D were now set to fly overseas, but unfortunately sponsorship fell through, and in order for a new sponsor to come in and pay for the flights, another tournament would have to be played out.
So WCG, the second one came up again, and me and Kurtis went instead of him and Kambo. I think at the time it was just due to me getting an Xbox, and because at most of the longest LANs I was right behind Kurtis, like on his heels. I think I started to outperform Kambo.
The second one was fucking blatant. Oh nah, did you see that? Oh god. Oh my god. Fucking what the fuck is going on?
From all the LANs we had done, Kuran was definitely more of a standout player, and I felt that he was kind of more on my level.
It just seemed the logical choice at that time for me and Kurtis to team and go to it.
This time Pyroteq and Saitex from Australia attended, and that was huge. Like, everyone knew who they were from online. They were two Australians.
Two brothers, Satiex and Pyroteq, had expressed interest in competing in the WCG qualifier. Having lived in Australia most of their lives but born in New Zealand, this meant that their New Zealand citizenship was still valid and therefore had to compete in the New Zealand WCG qualifiers for Halo 2.
I was running the World Cyber Games 2005 qualifiers at that time for Halo, and so these two kids came over and well, they smashed people left, right and centre. They were good. They were really good at Halo.
We had no idea we would be playing in the New Zealand finals until it got very close. We competed in Sydney and we came second, and then we went to ACT and we came first, and as WCG was coming closer we realised that we needed Australian passports, So we basically had two options. We could either get dual citizenship or Australian citizenship, or we could fly to New Zealand and play in the New Zealand finals.
We had some really close games against Saitex and Pyroteq. I specifically remember a midship game that could have kept us in it, and it was neck and neck till the end, and then I think Kuran spawned out the front of a base while they had P3, and that's just instant death. Like, there's nowhere you can go, and I was dead as well. And then I spawned right next to him, and I was like, wow, that's like, it was equal until that happened, and then they kind of just hid, and then the game timed out and we lost it.
We ended up in the finals, and these guys were a lot better than anything with Burst, so it was actually really fun games. They were really close. The sort of scores, it was normally a team Slayer first to 50 kills.
Slayer.
One of the games actually ended up 50-48, and then I think we did take one match off on the next one.
I can remember the final set against them. I just remember they were both had solid teamwork. They've obviously been brothers, I guess, played a lot of Halo together.
Satiex was absolutely amazing. Like, watching him that tournament, his shots were on point. Like, he didn't miss a shot. He was just super clean player, didn't make mistakes.
Bob will be doing all the work on lockout versus the Aussie boys, and all of a sudden Pablo will be wandering off on his own. He's nowhere near Bob. He's not even like in the supporting him or anything. He's just like dying on his own, and the Aussie guys are like got their communication up. They're like calling out stuff.
One of them got the call out of where I was in the window. That player couldn't see me at the time, but they just hucked a sticky grenade from behind where they were standing, and he knew how to get a sticky through that window from where he was standing, even though he couldn't see it, and he just stuck me right in the face. And then from that point they would have pushed on, killed Bob, and then taken map control over.
Bob will be like, Pablo, what's going on? Where are you? Sort of thing, you know. He's just away, like AWOL, you know what I mean.
So watching them in the finals, I kind of knew they didn't really have a chance just after watching Pyro and Saitex. Yeah, their teamwork was just a step above the New Zealanders.
Everything that we worked for a long time, and being, you know, kind of knocked back from competing the year prior, just due to age limitations, and probably there would have been other complications further up. But it just felt good. It felt like, you know, calling yourself a national champion at anything is a pretty big deal. It's something that you can't have taken off you.
I remember being really gutted at the time, because of the amount of time I'd put into the game. I don't want to take anything away from Satiex and Pyro, because they obviously put in a lot of effort as well, but yeah, that was my one shot at doing just the one thing I wanted to do, which was represent New Zealand.
Unable to dedicate as much time as the younger gamers who were still in school, Pablo found it difficult to keep up with the rapid acceleration of skills seen in these players. Once known as one of the best during the release of Halo 2, he was left to abandon the game to attend to his family and move forward, leaving his goal of representing New Zealand behind. Saitex and Pyroteq, now representing New Zealand against the world, seemed to do no better than Traction did in 2004, being knocked out of the tournament but instead being unable to win a game and failing to progress outside of pool play.
We played UK, Australia and Singapore, and despite beating Singapore and the UK team in the majority of the scrims we played against them, in the actual tournament games we lost. The UK game was very, very close. We were actually up. We choked. Yeah, we choked hardcore in the game against the UK. We were up about 10 kills, 15 kills, some absurd. We had an absurd lead, and we let it slip from us.
The past year of having Halo 2 online had caused a boom in the Xbox Live population. This combined with the excitement of WCG events meant that this growing community was craving competition. With everyone practicing online, a few local players decided to host LAN events regularly. These events were called Black Box Sessions, or BBS for short. Halo 2 was added to the tournament lineup in a 2v2 format and gained attention through word of mouth on Xbox Live. The first event was BBS4 in August 2005. BBS4 was a small event and saw very few people travel from out of town to play, but Bob and his partner Zeth managed to take first place with ease.
So BBS, Black Box Session, was sort of our main event. That was the event that sustained us for years. So I came together with a man who went by the name of M, and together we sort of fleshed out BBS as a tournament series, as a LAN series. And so, 4 and 5, when I sort of came on, we started to make it quite big. It was still pretty small. We had a couple of teams, people would rock up, you wouldn't really register, you just show up with $10 on the day. We did it at a church out in East Auckland called St. Columba. I think one of their sort of halls that they had there, and so we just rocked up. I managed to get this giant 100 port LAN switch that I called the Beast for like $20 off of TradeMe. It was a 10 base one, right, which was garbage for any kind of actual networking, but for Halo it worked. So everybody would sort of just plug in their Xboxes and their monitors or TVs, whatever they had at the time, and sit down and play some Halo.
There was no money prizes, there was no anything like that. It was just, if you won, you got to choose a game out of a box. And that was it. So it was more playing for, I guess, reputation than anything else. We didn't play for money. There was no main stage. There was no nothing. It was, we wanted to see how good we were compared to everyone else, because the internet connection in New Zealand at the time was shit.
Fuck out of here, dickhead.
It was terrible, and so the only way we could tell was LAN.
By this stage, many friendships had been made, but not face to face. This was to change on January 21st, 2006, as BBS5 had a huge turnout, allowing players to put face to the gamertag and provide a much more social atmosphere than playing online did.
After Black Box Session 4 was all wrapped up, after I talked to more people about it, I was like, pretty sweet, actually quite a fun event. The next one rolled around, and at that point, Lung Butter, who I used to play with quite a bit in double team, ended up actually teaming with Zeth.
I went with Bob69er for that one, which was pretty nuts having him on my team. He kind of like asked me last minute, I was kind of surprised. Like I didn't really know what I was going to do for that lane. I thought I was just going to go with Kuran or someone again. But yeah, he's like, do you want to team with me? Just like real casual, and I was like, yeah.
It was me and Kurtis versus Zeth and Lungbutter in the finals. It was the only two good teams there.
I got my ass carried. I was nervous as hell. I remember just missing so many shots. Like whenever someone came to watch my screen, I'd just kind of freeze up. I was really bad with nerves when I first started playing.
Rico, what are you doing?
What's the score?
43 to 24.
I can see TV clearly.
That was my first place finish. It was pretty cool, but I don't know, I don't feel like I really deserved it. I'm not sure if I really played that badly. I just know that I was aiming pretty bad, and like I had Bob69 on my team, so it's not like I really earned it. Like if I got first place with say Kuran or with Kambo, then I would have been freaking stoked, but I don't know, I feel like I just had it given to me.
So I sort of went all out and used my dirty tactics and sort of won us that competition as well, so we got more free stuff, which is good.
So back in the day, attending a LAN was a big mission. You either had to downsize and bring a small TV or CRT, because they weren't these. They were this far out the arse. Whereas, so trying to carry that to a competition, let alone trying to make room for that in a car to take out, was a mission. So I guess like that caused people to have more respect for each other, because you went through the effort to get out of your house and come and bring all of this luggage and all this hassle, and half of us didn't even live in Auckland really.
Those LANs back then, you would play all night because you've done all this work to be able to play against each other. You're not going to play a few games and then fucking bugger off. You're going to fucking play.
3 months later, BBS4 took place on May 6th, 2006. Previous tournament success caused word to spread, making attendance higher than ever. Lung went back to Bob, leaving Zeth and Kurtis teamless.
BBS4 was the next one that I went to, and I went with Zeth this time. Me and Zeth were kind of behind Bob and Lung. They were really good. Like when I started playing, they were right at the top, but me and Zeth kind of both started at the same time. We both were improving really fast together. So we thought we'd team together and it would give us a good shot at beating them.
BBS4 was my first LAN. I went there, it was a 2v2 LAN for Halo 2, and I went there with
Prodigy. This was, I think, before the rise of him, before he turned into the powerhouse that he turned into. So I guess this would have been one of his earliest LANs, maybe even his first one. I guess looking back on it now, it's a bit of a surprise to see him place that low, but even with Dobo, because I remember Dobo being quite beast at that time. He's always been quite beast.
Wow, no. Double kill, triple kill.
We got a really bad pool. We got, Bob and Lungbutter and Devil 48 and Chickened, which we lost to. So we didn't even get to the, the final 8 playoffs. So we got 9th that competition, I believe. Yeah, it was a thrashing.
When teams verse each other in a tournament, they play multiple games against each other, which is referred to as a series. A series always has an uneven number of games so that a tie can never occur. The number of games in a series is referred to as the best of. For example, a best of 3 has 3 predetermined map and game type combinations for the teams to play, with the first team to reach 2 game wins being the winner of the series. For a best of 5, a team would need to win 3 games, and for a best of 11, you'd need to win 6.
Don't say that.
That way, we would come
We had extremely close games against them. We were really disappointed. I specifically remember this lockout game where basically Bob had host and he host shotgunned us while we had sword, and ended up like stealing our sword and snipe and taking it back to BR tower. And we couldn't do anything. Like they just camped there with sword and snipe, and we couldn't push across top mid against that. Yeah, I remember Zeth was very salty about that. He was just so disappointed because he absolutely hated it that all the kind of casual players were all over Bob, and they'd be like, oh yeah, Bob's the best, because Zeth was, I don't know, he was more competitive than me. He was crazy, and he was extremely good as well.
Coming so close to victory but falling short was hard for the pair. Zeth was especially angered as he saw himself equal to or even better than Bob individually, but could never manage to show it. Bob's fame within the community for his continual victories made it worse, and the praise he received fueled Zeth's fire. He would have to wait months, however, until he had another chance. Meanwhile, in the United States, Halo had grown to a level that dwarfed New Zealand's. With a much larger population and focus on electronic entertainment, the US had spawned a company called Major League Gaming, or MLG for short. MLG regularly hosted sold-out tournaments of 256 teams of 4 with prize pools of up to $100,000. They also had pro players who were signed under contract and gained a celebrity status within the gaming world.
Lateral was the best, seen as the best.
I think that was around the time which we were having turmoil about the lack of practice that we had, where we had some people saying we didn't need it, and others saying we did need it.
PB came along and started sort of nipping at the heels.
I expected to do really well. Like I was feeling really good. I felt like I was in my prime. I didn't think I could get really that much better.
I always wanted to be on lateral. Like I always wanted to be in the best. Halo 2 always captivated me.
People started crowding around us to see what we were doing.
We don't know who the fuck is going to win this thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the heavyweight champion of fighting. Here he is, Bob69er NZ. Ladies and gentlemen, here's my asshole. Oh yeah, fucking beautiful. Hey guys, this is the fucking third one for the night. Unbelievable, but here it goes. Absolutely fucking fabulous, that one. Bit of a fucking bum tickler there. Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again for a fight. Oh, that was a fucking pity.